Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, it's 1 p.m. and we are going to call the December 3rd meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee to order. First order of business, if I could have a motion to adopt this afternoon's agenda. Mayor Elmsley, seconded by Member Willick. All in favor? That carries. Is there any declarations of pecuniary interest with this afternoon's agenda? Seeing none. We'll move right into public meeting reports. As required under the Planning Act, a public meeting is being held prior to the committee making a recommendation on these applications. All recommendations that come out of this afternoon will be forwarded to the next regular council meeting on December the 9th. The purpose of this public hearing is to allow the committee to gather information on the applications before us, to hear those wishing to make submissions on applications, and to allow the committee to ask questions of the applicants, interested parties, and staff. Everyone speaking today is requested to state their name for the public record, and in the interest of time, the committee respectfully asks that you keep your comments to no more than 5 minutes. When the appropriate time comes after the planner makes their presentation, members of the public will be provided an opportunity to speak to any public meeting items on the agenda. At that point, please either unmute yourself and turn on your video or come to the podium and press the speak button to activate the microphone. And with that, we will go into item 3.1, Plan 2025-059, applications to amend the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan and the Township of Somerville zoning bylaw 78-45, part lot 52, concession on Front Range parts 1-5, 57R 6496 on vacant lands on Baseline Road, Coboconk, Moore. Mr. Romero, the floor is yours.
Okay, just give me a sec. Share my screen. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Rafael Romero. I'm an urban planner from Dillon Consulting Limited, here on behalf of the City of Kawartha Lakes Development Services Division. Thank you to the applicant for being here virtually today, and to staff, the chair, and the rest of the Planning Advisory Committee for considering this official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications to fulfill conditions of consent under consent file number D03-2024-055 to 2057 to create 3 residential waterfront lots accessed via private right-of-way established through a common element condominium application today being presented and received for informational purposes only. I would like to note that notice for this application was originally given to each of the landowner, agencies, and departments in accordance with matters of the Planning Act. This is the first circulation and appearance at PAC. The subject lands are located at the vacant lands on Baseline Road and are legally known as Part Lot 52 concession on Front Range parts 1-5, 57R 6496 in the City of Kawartha Lakes. The subject lands encompass a total area of approximately 10.74 hectares with approximately 215 meters of frontage on Baseline Road. The lands are currently vacant. Surrounding uses include agricultural and waterfront residential to the north, agricultural to the east, agricultural to the south, and waterfront residential. And to the west, there is a water body known as Silver Lake Road and waterfront residential as well. The subject land is designated as waterfront and rural as per Schedule A7, with unevaluated wetlands and significant woodlands as per Schedule B7 in the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan. The subject land is zoned rural General in Schedule A of the Township of Somerville zoning bylaw 7845. The applicant is proposing to rezone and redesignate the subject lands to create 3 residential waterfront lots accessed via private right-of-way to satisfy conditions of consent under the file number D03-2024-055-057. An official plan amendment is required to recognize the severed lots as infilling lots under the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan. Furthermore, an amendment to the Township of Somerville zoning bylaws, an amendment to the Township of Somerville zoning bylaw 7845 is required to rezone the subject lands. Specifically, the retained lands will be rezoned to a rural general exception zone to address zoning deficiencies related to lot area and frontage. While the severed lots will be rezoned to limited service residential and environmental protection, which will protect the 30-meter water buffer identified around the existing wetlands and restrict development in the area provided that it aligns with the provisions outlined in the EP zone. At this time, this fulfills the statutory public meeting requirement as set out in the Planning Act. Planning staff respectfully recommend that the application be received for informational purposes only and referred back to staff until refinements to the archaeological assessment report is completed as agreed upon by the applicant. The applicant is here to assist in any questions anyone may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation, Mr. Romero. Committee, any questions? Member Barkwell?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. There were a couple of questions I had. It's just Shadow Lake Road 20. My understanding is it's an unassumed road and it's private, but we would consider that, oh, it's private, different than unassumed. Okay, and so that would allow for access to the property as the one that's already there. And I was glad you clarified that it's asking to go from rural general to LSR, limited service residential. And I just wondered, I thought with the, and I just asked this as a question, if the rural zoning bylaws, when they were merged, if we have LSR anymore, I thought we were trying to get rid of those. And it just went to rural residential 1, 2, or 3, or that sort of thing. So just a couple of questions about that. Thank you.
So through the chair, my understanding is Shadow Lake Road is a private road owned by the applicant, Craig Moore. And I'm not sure as it relates to, I can get back to you as it relates to the rural zone, but as it relates to the amendment for the application before us today, we are considering it to be rezoned to be limited service residential for the proposed waterfront lots.
And just as a point of interest to your second question, the rural zoning consolidation bylaw is still under appeal. So the original zonings all still apply until that's settled. All good. Councillor Warren, you have a question?
I do, through you. Just to staff. There was a letter that came in our package a bit later. I wondered if you could address those questions that were in the letter for the applicant.
I will, through the chair, I will direct the question as it relates to servicing of Shadow Lake Road to Craig Moore, who is on the call.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mayor, councillors, committee, staff, and Raphael. Yeah, so a question came out, I guess, from one of my neighbors about servicing the road. And I'm kind of surprised they asked because we've talked about it numerous times. But just as we did have a washout on the road in the spring, and we contributed.
I think maybe, sorry, let's leave that to the public questions. I
Yeah.
think we're kind of out of order here, so we'll get back to, if you've got the correspondence, then you can address that once we deal with all the other public questions. Okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Committee, any further questions of the planning staff? Everybody's good? Okay, so then
Through the chair, just to address the EP comment. So the application before us would rezone the 30-meter buffer area from the water body to prevent future development from occurring. So in essence, the requested zoning bylaw amendment would, in essence, protect from future development occurring, provided that it aligns with the quite restrictive EP zone provisions.
okay, thank you for
And
that.
thank you for you. I guess, yeah, just for the applicant, maybe later, whatever, you can answer. They had some specific questions. That's fine, thank you.
Okay, so at this point, does the applicant, owner, or their agent wish to speak to the application?
Yes, I can speak to the application. I'm Craig Moore. I'm the owner of the property. Good afternoon, Mayor, councillors, Raphael, committee, and staff. So as for the questions, I guess one of my neighbors inquired about the maintenance of Shadow Lake Road 20. The maintenance of that road will be shared amongst the owners or the users of the water frontage. So currently, there's three of us. I'm an owner, and then there's two cottages. And we did have an issue in the spring, and we shared it 1/3 equally. In the future, as lots are severed and people start developing the lots, then it'll be shared appropriately. So I don't know why they're asking, because we already shared in costs. So maybe they're referring to snow removal. I'm not sure, but that'll be something that'll happen down the road. So that's the maintenance issue. Their other issue, they said that they claimed that I was cutting trees down. The only trees that have been cut down were damaged trees due to the ice storm. I'm sure we all had some of that. I actually have a lot more that I still need to clean up. So trees that were damaged due to the ice storm, and also my surveyor had to cut a few trees as he was staking the lot. That's all I have in response to, I guess, their questions.
Okay, committee, any questions of the applicant at this stage? Everybody's good? Okay. With that, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak to the application? I think there are some people online, so I'm gonna take questions from anybody online first. No? Okay. So anybody present in chambers wishing, if you want to come up to the podium? We just need you to turn the mic on there.
There we go. Technology. My name's Tim Dobish. I'm the one of the directors on the Shadow Lake Association. So I'm not here. It's probably a question to the developer, because I'm still not clear if this is a commercial or a private development. When I say commercial, is it a timeshare type place versus just severing three lots that would become private residences? So that's one question. The second is, our mandate is to protect the lake make sure it's navigable, do everything to, keep the lake for future generations in good shape. So one of the things we find with commercial developments is they bring a lot of boat traffic and so forth onto the lake, yet they don't pay the fair share of dues that allow us to maintain lake markers, collaborate with Parks Canada, with the city and so forth. So 2 questions. One, is it a commercial development or is it a private development? Secondly, does the developer commit to supporting the Shadow Lakes Association and our mandate? And by the way, that has nothing to do with whether you approve this or not. I just wanted to take this opportunity to just advise the city that we're part of making sure that, that future generations really benefit from what Kawartha Lakes and what you're doing and what we're doing is in place. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak to the application? Anyone else from the public wishing to speak to the application? Calling a third and final time. Anyone from the public wishing to speak to this application? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Mr. Moore, is there anything that you would like to say to answer any questions?
Sure. So Tim, I appreciate your comments. Just so you know, I am a Shadow Lake Association member. I do have a cottage on Shadow Lake, and I do appreciate access to the lake. My goal here, and you can talk to Brett, who is your on your committee there. He knows all about me. So my goal here is to sever 3 waterfront lots. Ideally, they're residential lots, or if someone wants them as cottage lots, but I'm not looking for any commercial. I'm not rezoning it commercial. They're going to be LSR lots, limited service residential lots. So my goal is to hopefully have 3 families living there or cottaging there, whatever they choose. And as for supporting the lake, I am a member, as I said, and I hope these 3 future owners will support the association as well. That's all I have.
Thank you for that. Okay, committee, you've heard all the comments. What would be your recommendation to council? Mayor Elmsley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That report plan 2025-059, applications to amend the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan and the Township of Somerville zoning bylaws 7845, part lot 52, concession on Front Range parts 1 to 5, 57R6496, former Township of Somerville, City of Kawartha Lakes, Baseline Road, Craigmore, to be received for information.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Member Willick, any discussion? Calling the question, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. That brings us to item 3.2, Plan 2025-060, an application to amend the Township of Eldon zoning bylaw 94-14, South Part Lot 14, concession North Portage Road, being Lot 1 on Plan 276, Eldon at 89 McKelvey Road, Kirkfield. Mr. Jegaswaran, and I'm going to apologize because I didn't get that anywhere near correct.
Is no problem at all. Hello, everyone. My name is Harini Jagadiswaran, and I am an urban planner from Dillon Consulting Limited, here on behalf of the City of Kawartha Lakes Development Services Division. Thank you to the applicant for being here virtually today, and to staff, the chair, and the rest of the Planning Advisory Committee for considering the zoning bylaw amendment application under the file number D06-2025-015. The zoning bylaw amendment seeks to permit a single detached dwelling with an additional residential unit, address existing zoning deficiencies, and protect existing natural features on the subject land. I would like to note that notice for this application was originally given to each the landowner, agencies, and departments in accordance with matters of the Planning Act. Notice of this application was advertised in the Kawartha This Week newspaper on November 13th on the City of Kawartha Lakes website to agencies and city departments which may have an interest in the application. Please note that there was an error in the circulated public notice which incorrectly stated that the applicant is pursuing both an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment. The applicant is only proposing a zoning bylaw amendment at this time. Circulation commenced on September 30th, 2025 and concluded on October 14th, 2025. This is the first circulation and appearance at PAC for this application. The subject lands, as shown on screen, are located at 89 McKelvey Road and legally known as South Part Lot 14, Concession North Portage Road, being Lot 1 and Plan 276, in the geographic township of Eldon in the city of Kawartha Lakes. The subject land encompasses a total area of approximately 1,426.68 square meters with approximately 38.38 meters of frontage on McKelvey Road. Existing uses on these lands include a vacation dwelling with 2 dwelling units. Surrounding uses include waterfront residential and a water body known as Canal Lake to the north, waterfront residential and agricultural to the east, vacant lands to the south, and waterfront residential and Canal Lake to the west. The subject lands are designated waterfront on Schedule A3 of the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan. The subject lands are zoned Limited Service Residential Exception 1 on Schedule G of the Township of Eldon zoning bylaw. The applicant seeks to rezone the subject lands from Limited Service Residential Exception 1 to a site-specific Limited Service Residential Exception Zone 2, permit a single detached dwelling with an additional residential unit, as the current zoning only permits a vacation dwelling and a maximum density of 1 dwelling unit per lot. A vacation dwelling, according to the zoning bylaw, is a single detached dwelling used for recreational purposes that is not used for continuous habitation or as a permanent residence. The applicant is also proposing to amend the zoning bylaw to acknowledge existing zoning deficiencies of the existing single detached dwelling on site. Examples include gross floor area, density, water setback, as well as lot area. Staff note that should the applicant pursue a single detached dwelling with an additional residential unit, an official plan amendment will be required to address the following policies related to access and lot area. The site fronts onto a private road, McKelvey Road, whereas Section 5.7.2H of the official plan only permits additional residential units on lots with frontage onto a year-round municipal road. The lot area of the subject land is approximately 0.14 hectares, whereas Section 5.7.2C of the official plan requires a minimum of 0.4 hectares for lots with an additional residential unit. If the application is to proceed as filed, the application materials would need to be revised accordingly. Instead, staff recommend the applicant amend the zoning bylaw application to acknowledge the existing vacation dwelling already containing 2 units. Staff are also working with the applicant to address concerns identified by the public, which include the potential of creating a precedent for allowing 2 dwelling units on land zoned Limited Service Residential Exception 1. At this time, this fulfills the statutory public meeting requirements as set out in the Planning Act. Planning staff respectfully recommend that the application be received for information purposes only and referred back to staff until refinements to the zoning bylaw amendment have been addressed. The applicant is here to assist in any questions anyone may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Committee, any questions of planning staff? Councillor Richardson?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Just if you could provide a little bit of clarification when you pointed out the fact that it could be potentially precedent setting with the 2 dwelling units on land zone Limited Service Residential Exception 1. Just a little bit more detail on that.
Yes, through you, the chair. We received some public comments and just concerns on the application. And one of the comments was currently the lots on McKelvey Road are all like cottage vacation dwelling, all zoned Limited Service Exception 1. The public have expressed a concern that if we allow this specific lot to act as a semi-detached, if we approve it to be acknowledged as a lot with 2 units, then it might be setting a precedent for future semi-detaches. That was just a concern that was expressed. We are working with the applicant, and they are aware of this to hopefully address this before we come back to council.
Okay. Member Nguyen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just looking at the map right there on the screen. Is there any other proposed structure that is being requested? Because I already see there's 4, and the main one in the middle there is I guess, a split where there's already two residences.
I believe so. There was the 3 at the front, and then the one. Sorry, through you, the chair. There's 3 at the front, and then there's 1 up here. The public has also expressed that there are some inconsistencies with the site plan application or the existing site plan application. So we are working with the applicant to verify what's there currently and amend this.
Can I just have a follow-up question? So then effectively, if they are going to or asking to have other structures built, will the lot be properly serviced with that so many structures and potentially more individuals using the property in terms of sewage and water?
Through you, the chair. At this current moment in time, the application does not consider building more structures. They are simply asking to acknowledge the existing accessory structures and the existing use of the property.
Any further questions of planning staff at this time? Member Barkwell?
Thank you. I'm kind of lost at all of so right now it's LSR and it's a vacation unit. And it's owned by one person, and because there's one tax bill, and so the other person is leasing it from the original owner. So you want to divide it up into one house, but you want it to be kind of a duplex, a split, and then so it would be. Is that what's happening?
Through you, the chair. I believe there's fractional ownership on the property. So both sides, like the owners of both sides of the dwelling, are on the taxes. But I will direct this question to the applicant, Nicholas Dell, for further clarification.
Thanks, Rane. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Chair, to Member Barkwell's question. I think I'd like to make sure you have asked all your questions of staff first, and I'm going to note this in my presentation as a response to you. I'd like to do a general overview from the committee, and I don't want to start with individual questions. I will address and answer this question after we're done with staff. I want to make sure Arane has reclaimed her time, and then I can take my 5 minutes, but I'll certainly answer the questions about existing structures and the current ownership.
Thank you for that. Member Barkwell?
So what I noticed there are 2, it's been sold at least once or twice. And was it sold as a single family or as a vacation property? Or was one side sold, like as a 45-foot frontage, I believe, on the lake? It just seems, if we're going to divide it up into 2, or what's the history with those sales? I couldn't follow it on the listing.
No.
So let's wait for the general overview unless you've got a specific planning question for staff. Let's wait for the applicant's overview of the property, if that's okay. Committee, any further questions of planning staff at this time? Everybody's good? Okay, so that brings us, does the applicant, owner, or their agent wish to speak to the application?
Yes, Mr. Chair. My name is Nicholas Dell. I am the applicant and authorized agent on behalf of both owners, and I reside at 1370 here Ontario Street in Mississauga. My overview it may not be brief, but it will be detailed, but I will respect your time, and if there's any point you need to interrupt me to ask a question, please feel free to do so. This is a very unique case. As far as melon scratchers go, this is a real honeydoodle, so to speak. My client first came to me because I had done some business with his wife at a property that they owned in Toronto. And they said they had some problems because they had received an order to comply for constructing a shed without a permit. The shed, if you're looking at the plan drawing here, is on the right portion of the property in the front. That shed has since received a full building permit and engineering review and has been deemed compliant. When we went to address the order to comply for the shed that was constructed without a permit, a legal plan of survey was conducted to identify all the existing structures and their current setbacks, so we could conduct a zoning review to make sure that we didn't need any minor variances to the zoning bylaw for too many additional structures, accessory structures, coverage of those structures, and to recognize the existing as-built structures on this site. As you can imagine, the survey yielded a very striking resemblance to a semi-detached property. And what was also shared with me from my client was unregistered, but albeit still executed documents that behaved like a shared facilities and a maintenance agreement and easements and rights of way for servicing to share this property as a semi. These documents, these legal documents, which were submitted to staff, and we've been working with staff for over 2 to 3 years on trying to get our head around what happened here and how this came to be, because the chain of ownership does go back over 40 years to this configuration and speaks to these agreements. So there were encumbrances that have legal standing that were never registered on title that passed through the chain of ownership for each person purchasing a piece or a co-ownership of this property. Very strange. I hope you'll agree with me. To see something like that not really have sort of legal standing, or sorry, title standing, but still have legal purchase, and it goes with the property each time it was sold. These agreements were understood during the buyer's due diligence, and there was harmony between the two co-owners. I don't quite understand, I'm not a lawyer, how you can sell half a property, but that was what was done, and it's been this way for, like I said, over 40 years. So going back to the 80s, my first investigation and diagnostic on this case to see if we can support it from a planning perspective was to try and see it if at the time when these agreements were put in place between the co-owners, if the old Victoria County official plan would have permitted a semi-detached configuration, or if they would have permitted a consent. And we worked with the planning staff, with Leah and Kent, and we basically came up with a pre-consultation concept that tried to recognize these as grandfathered. And we even went to a question of law, where there could be potentially a divisional court that would decide whether these unregistered encumbrances for co-owners chaining back 40 years could be recognized. But there's a lot of vacancy, as you could appreciate, of context for this type of situation, both in the old Victoria County official plan, Eldon zoning bylaw, and today's City of Kawartha Lakes consolidation. And so we felt, with discussions with staff, that the best way forward would be to try to recognize the existing conditions and agreement and encumbrances by doing an amendment that would capture everything that has been going on the site for 40 years, albeit some of the structures are new, and hence the order to comply that started this whole, opened this door, so to speak. And what we're showing is what's there now. It's not necessarily what will be there in terms of compliance, but it's not to, Member Nguyen and Member Barkwell's point, it's not to construct further impacts to the lake. It's not to change this from a vacation home into a permanent home. It's that there isn't a definition in the glossary of terms that we can rely on that recognizes a semi-detached vacation home. That doesn't really exist. So I can appreciate, and I entirely understand and have experienced confusing members of the public when it comes to the black and white or the dryness of how public notices are written, especially for a case that has such a long history on it, and it appears as though we're trying to propose something that isn't there now. And that can certainly present a tempting assumption to assume that this is going to be a slippery slope or this is going to set a negative precedent. But I think that the uniqueness of this proposal is what will preserve and protect this committee and this township from recognizing more situations like this, because I'd never seen anything like this. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find or set a precedent based on this uniqueness. So I hope I've answered to the questions that I've heard from the committee, and I did read the comments from the public that were sent to me yesterday, and I do understand my clients are quite transparent with their other neighbors, and I've been circulated on a long chain of emails of people questioning what we're doing and worried about what we're proposing. And I'd like to finish and answer any questions you may have by saying that what we're trying to do is recognize what's always been there, and what we're coming forward with is a bit of acrobatics to purchase and find some footing within the zoning bylaw and the official plan for policies that don't really speak to this type of situation. So I can appreciate the confusion. I hope I've answered and clarified things as best I could, and I'm available as a resource to this committee for any questions they may have, as well as members of the public.
Thank you very much for the clarification. Committee, any questions of the applicant's agent at this time? Member Nguyen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I would like to ask, it sounds like this property is currently legally, or at least the structures are currently legally non-conforming in order to have two ownership, although registered as one on title. Why can't you just leave it at that rather than asking us to recognize and amend the bylaws, which then opens the door to a floodgate where others will be asking for the same, and it doesn't really affect your client in terms of the legally non-conforming status, because it'll just stay status quo. However, I guess in the future, if they do want to sell it, there will be issues, and to the extent that there's future development plans, we're not going to allow two residences to be placed on one lot when that is clearly against the zoning bylaw.
Thank you for the question, Member Nguyen, through you, Mr. Chair. Why can't we leave it the way it is? Well, for years, and I mean the years, not just the years preceding my engagement to deal with the shed, but for years and years it has stayed this way, and it has been considered, in my opinion, legally non-conforming. But staff have come and said you need to amend the bylaw to recognize this. When a neighbor complained about a shed, that opened the door to review this as a non-compliant and continual non-compliant situation. So we have been advised to come in by staff to recognize the situation. Certainly my client vacations here with his neighbor. I'm going to use the word neighbor, even though it's technically co-owner, and there has been no issues. But could we have been able to continue that? I certainly would have been happy to report that to my client, but the town has asked us to figure this out. And I do recognize the temptation to suggest that this would be a negative precedent-setting approval. But I think with my friend Harane and the process, what the process allows us is to find something that's so site-specific and unique to capture the real proper way of defining what's been existing here for 40 years. So I understand the apprehension to start a slippery slope, but you would have to find something as unique as this to support it again in the future, which I don't think you'll be able to do.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson.
I'm actually just going to ask Director Barry if she doesn't mind piping in on this one.
Sure, thanks for the opportunity through the chair. Fractional ownership is not something that staff or the committee see every day. So that is unique in that sense. There are 3 named owners, each with a different percentage or share of the property. It is one property. There is no proposal in front of the committee to divide the property. The property is intended to stay as a single lot. That might appear a little confusing just based on how the site plan is drawn. You might have picked up on that, Member Barkwell. So fractional ownership aside, correctly as noted by both staff and by the applicants, the owner's representative, it is a long-standing existing situation. And as staff worked together across divisions and across departments, planning was informed both through the enforcement staff in the building and septic division as well as in the municipal law enforcement division. And so the inquiries began through nuisance complaints, and through sort of as that process evolved, sounds a bit better, there was an opportunity there to discuss with the owners how they wished to rectify the existing non-compliances. And one of the options, again, as noted by Mr. Dell, was to approach divisional court and make application to divisional court simply for a declaration of a legal non-conforming status. That isn't something that the city offers, but that is an option. However, any future changes, as again alluded to and noted by Member Nguyen, the proposal, if one was to come for future construction, additions, new structures, all would need to be addressed through a Planning Act application, even with a legal non-conforming status that was declared by divisional court, if that was the case. So the option of pursuing a rezoning application to address the existing use and bring the lot and the property including the buildings and structures on the lot, into compliance, recognizes not only the existing situation, but allows the owners to act in accordance with what otherwise is permitted in the LSR zone. I hope that helps clarify some points, or at least from my perspective, what the committee is being asked to consider today. And I believe the recommendation is a report back to give the owners and the applicant some opportunities to consider the further recommendation that staff has given to refine the zoning application to read more clearly as what's intended, and that is to just recognize the existing situation.
Thank you. Member Willick.
Question through the chair to Director Barry or the planner. Looking at an LSR2 zoning, would that be site-specific only to this property, or does it already exist?
Mr. Chair, I can jump in with that one. I was quicker than my colleague with unmuting. So, Harini, you're off the hook, and thank you for the question, Member Willick. I also heard the word two. I think it might have been as well as opposed to the number two when the planner was describing it. So regardless of the label attached or the special exception attached to a future exception zone, it would be specific only to this lot. So hopefully that answers.
Member Nguyen.
Thank you. I'm not sure who I should direct the question to, but I'll just ask the question. So it is not uncommon for people to have co-ownership, joint ownership. And I understand it has not been registered on title as that, but it could be, so that, you know, I myself, whether with a family member or my friend, can co-own a property. Could that just not happen so that it's registered on title that they're co-owners, and whoever happens to live there is whoever happens to live there as any other residence? I'm not sure why we're going through a bylaw amendment.
Sure, Mr. Chair, through you. I'll just pick up on a comment earlier, and that was one that was made by Mr. Dell. And certainly if I'm misinterpreting, I'll ask the chair to give him an opportunity to respond. The part about what's registered on title and what's not, I believe Mr. Dell was talking to the housing typology as not being registered on title. However, the legal opinion that we sought, the city received, did clarify that the ownership pattern, the 50%, 25%, 25% split amongst the three named owners, is registered on title. So we do see that combination. To your point, you're exactly right. That is noted on title.
So thank you very much for that clarification. So that still doesn't I guess, address my concern as to why are we opening a floodgate. They are a co-owners, they're recognized on title, leave it be. The services on the property seem to support their current activity. That's the end of that, as far as I'm concerned. So why this amendment? I understand that the city have asked them to come, you know, to rectify the issue, but ultimately their joint ownership is a legally permitted thing that is already reflected on title. Whether or not we, you know, how they conduct their activities through their joint ownership is their issue, is kind of their business, and the property currently service their current activities. So why are we amending the bylaw?
Sure, and so through you, Mr. Chair, to the member, the zoning is not intended to recognize the ownership. There wouldn't be, as we see with other zones, no indication of who owns what. It's actually to recognize the housing typology, which isn't permitted in the LSR zone. The LSR zone only permits a single dwelling unit, and so recognizing the existing housing typology that contains 2 units, which predates the zoning bylaw and gives it a non-complying status without being in compliance with the zoning, prevents the owners from obtaining a building permit if they were to seek one in the future, for example, without going through a process. That side of the coin is not uncommon. We in fact see it more often, I would say, at the Committee of Adjustment than in front of the Planning Advisory Committee, and at times it's just for the purposes of obtaining a building permit. However, not uncommon for here we go again, honorable owners, to get clean title, quote unquote, possibly to make a sale more marketable, is one example of where existing scenarios are ones that we see in front of the committee to recognize and to bring into compliance in perpetuity, or at least until a new zoning bylaw comes into play.
Any further questions from committee? Seeing none. Okay. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak to the application?
My name's Bruce Finn, and I'm at 93, the neighbor to the east. I heard the applicant's person addressing the fact that there was a shed that was built illegally. I don't refer to a single car garage as a shed that was built too close without a permit to the road allowance. And then when it was caught, then this all came to light, everything that was going on. Through the applicant's application that was sent, there's so many incorrect listings on it. It's got it down as a private, a public municipal road when it's not. McKelvey is a private road that's maintained by the 26 cottages on that lot. The other issue is, in this booklet that was sent out, they list that everything's fine except for minor movement of the garage. The garage is going to have to be moved slightly. I find it hard that if the garage in question was put there as per a permit, why would it have to be moved now? What doesn't it comply to? As for the site plan, they omitted a culvert that runs down the west side of the property that's eroding every year, wider and wider. I think when I helped Mr. Kalo, or one of the Tito in the spring with moving some fallen trees, I had seen that this ditch or culvert or whatever it is that services the rainwater runoff, the groundwater runoff to the lake, is now about 8 to 10 feet, maybe even bigger, and 4 feet deep. So that lot is getting smaller and smaller every year. So to try and change this and allow it, I became aware of this probably in the spring of 2015. We had purchased in September of 2014. Before we purchased, my wife and I, we had gone to the registry and went through the registry You know, we did our due diligence, made sure everything was fine, every piece of property, the piece that set back from the lake we had purchased on our lot that we were buying, and the whole yards, and the 9089 showed as a single family dwelling. Now, it's a flat roof structure, a second floor, first floor, but it does look like a contemporary build with different siding materials, and we believe that's what it to be until the following spring, April, when one of the individuals came over to us upset about what was going on his lot because there had been a fence put down, which indicated that there was a problem in Shangri-La. It wasn't going well for the two parts. I've heard before when there was issues with electrical on the property and hydro was there, that the service to the property they wouldn't allow it now because it droops over the garage from the service from the road to a pole between just roughly where the fence is. You'll see it on the 2016 survey in the plan, in that plan, but it doesn't show up anywhere else. It also shows up on the plan, on the survey, that there's a bridge just sitting in the middle of nowhere land. Now you understand why it's there, because there's a culvert that was getting deeper then that he needed to get a bridge to get across to his shed. As for, it shows septic tanks. Those septic tanks on the survey aren't there. They've been removed. There's two holding tanks there. The one holding tank on the east side is partially on the west side is partially on the east side because there wasn't enough land to put it directly in front of the structure. The well is now directly to the rear of the garage. Like there's probably 24 inches from where you step out of the garage and you're in the well. Like there's just so much that when you look at it, to sit down and pull it all apart, it should never be allowed. It's unfortunate that they had to sign a covenant between the two. That would have been the first red flag with your lawyer when you had to buy the place, that they agreed to share the expenses 50-50. I am not in favor, because I base buying my place and spending a heck of a lot more than the $132,000 on one side and $140,000 for the other that was done back in 2010 and 2014. Up until then, this property was family oriented and owned. It started out with two sisters, built the cottage, there was a falling out, and the wall went up. So as a result of that, it was handed down through family members, and when it came to the present owners, they're the first ones that are non-family oriented to own that property. Everything else is done private, so that's why you find nothing other than those two listings.
Okay.
Any questions? I would love to take them. I just don't know whether my 5 minutes would allow me to cruise through everything.
Yep, your 5 minutes is up.
Probably.
Member O'Reilly, you had a question?
Yes, I'll just have a quick question. The application before us is to amend the township zoning bylaw. So in other words, are you in favor or not in favor?
I am not in favor, and I submitted 14 proxy votes from members on that road that are not in favor of changing anything on that road.
Okay.
And 14 plus myself, that would give me, as the president of the road committee, that would give me enough to pass any bylaws or anything within our own. So I think that's a pretty good turnout. Some of them were going to turn out. I don't know whether they're on, watching or listening. I have another gentleman at the other end of the road here present that wants to speak. But no, I'm not in favor of this whatsoever.
Well, it's quite often it's not hard to get people to sign petitions anyways.
They came to me.
Well, that's all right. I don't care who they came to.
Yeah.
But regardless, we have something in front of us that our staff is trying to clean up. So anyway, we hear you're not in favor, so let's just speak to the application to amend the township.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, with the application, there's a lot of misleading information on it. I don't have... I thought how I could shorten it to 12 minutes because I thought I might have 12 minutes, but with 5 minutes, I just figured I'd just come up and talk my heart out because, it's not right what's going on. I probably would have walked away from the property that I bought knowing what the situation was next door. There's not enough room in there for the one side to have him, his wife, and their son and daughter in the cottage. It's a 2-bedroom cottage. They had a trailer, they were using it until that was stopped. And now I think they might even be using half of the garage because he's leaving some of his stuff that normally went in the garage outside again. So, like I say, it's not fitting for 2 families. It's fitting for 1, and that should reserve.
We understand the question's been answered.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I
okay.
appreciate Mr. Chair and the committee. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Mayor Elmsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a question for you.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So you're not in favor of what our staff wants to do to clean up the situation. What would your solution be?
My solution is one of them buy the other one out and return it back to the family dwelling that it was, or they find a third party that will buy it from them and resort it back to the single family dwelling, or maybe the 2 of them would like to go into another business venture and turn it back into a single family dwelling and do it as a timeshare between the 2 families over the summer. You have it this weekend, you have it that weekend. That's my opinion, because the fact of the matter is every 26 lot other than this one is a single family dwelling. Any other questions before I sit down?
Councillor Warren, you had a question?
Through you, actually, the mayor asked my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak to the application?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and council members, staff. Yes, the family first established a cottage there in 1956, and it has changed substantially since then. We always understood that when other I think we were the first or second ones in there at the end of the road, but we always understood that it would be family oriented, and that's basically what it has been. Now, we understand things change as we move through the decades, but there's a concern, and I find it really interesting, comments that, well, this is not right. I want to be careful here, but not correct information maybe that's being provided to the committee, to the municipality. I'm not sure how that works. I have to presume that staff from Kawartha Lakes have been out there checking, I would hope, so that none of this other stuff that we've talked about today would keep arising. Well, why is that? I know maybe somebody's not doing their job. I don't know. But it's confusing for people to hear that kind of thing now. And in a sense, yes, I understand. It's a mishmash. But we have concerns that simply, well, we got to make it legal, kind of thing, and then hope that the problem goes away. The problem that has been demonstrated, that we know or understand, is not going to go away simply because we let these folks, the proponents, kind of off the hook. Well, we got to clean this up. It's 40 years, whatever. So anyway, thank you so much for letting me speak. I speak as a neighbor and some good folks, and this is. I really got involved in this very quickly. 2-3 months ago, we have 2 lawyers on the road. At first, no, it's just then the latest, both lawyers, whoa, look out. Looking further into it, this is not as clear and as simple as some people make it out to be. So my last words are, please be careful with this one, and be careful that you're not making a mistake that's going to be challenged later on and in a sense make all of us look bad. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Can we just get your name for the record, please?
Robert Armstrong.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak to the application?
Please, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee. My name is Rosemary Finn. I'm the adjacent owner. This is my husband. Just to clarify, there wasn't a petition in opposition to what was proposed. What was given as proxies were individual proxies. Each of them are unique for their specific reasons. One of them dwells on, or not dwells, but points out the water plane and preserving the natural environment. The other gives a very good history because they've been there for 50 years, the adjacent owner to me, that it was in fact family owned for some time. We don't want to be problematic neighbors at all. It's been very, very difficult. I won't go into detail there, but those proxies are individual. They're not a petition. They're the people's own words of how they feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak to the application? I've got to go through the...
I just have one thing, if there's nobody else willing to speak, and it's not with regards to the application, it's how it was.
Okay, and how it was put forth to the other residents is really irrelevant to this, right? Yep, no, which is fine. Like, it's part of the record. All that stuff has been submitted. It's all part of it, right? And at the end of the day, everything that gets decided is based on the Planning Act and whether it's allowed or it's not allowed, right? So whether one person is against it or 1 million people are against it, it comes down to what the Planning Act allows or doesn't allow. Okay? Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak to the application? Calling a third and final time, anyone else from the public wishing to speak to the application? Okay. Does the agent, on behalf of the owners, is there anything that you would like to comment on further?
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chair, through you. I don't think I was asked any questions from the public, but I do note their concerns, and we are very early in a process, a very iterative process to recognize existing conditions. And we are also subordinate to what are called exacting minimums. And the requirements for complete application didn't include like a grading plan or servicing plan, which may have picked up the culvert the gentleman was speaking about. So we will be making resubmissions. There is another meeting to talk about this, and we will be clarifying and addressing all the concerns we heard today.
Okay, thank you. Committee, your recommendation to council? Member Barkwell?
Thank you. That the report plan 2025-060, application to amend the Township of Eldon zoning bylaw 94-14, South Part Lot 14, concession North Portage Road, being Lot 1 on Plan 276, Eldon, at 89 McKelvey Road, Kirkfield, be received for information.
Okay, seconder, Member O'Reilly, any discussion? Calling the question, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. That brings us down to item 4, this public meeting being held under the Planning Act is now adjourned. That brings us to item 4, deputations, which I believe we have none, and correspondence, which I believe there is none, and regular and returned reports. Item 6.1, Plan 2025-057, to amend the Township of Somerville zoning bylaw 78-45, Front Range, Part Lot 63 on vacant lands on Shadow Lake Road 6. Mr. Romero? Go ahead.
I'll be speaking to this application. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep, we can.
Hello, everyone. For those I haven't met yet, my name is Mark Fishman, and I'm an urban planner from Dillon Consulting Limited, here on behalf of the City of Kawartha Lakes Development Services Division. Thank you to the applicant for being here today, and to staff and the chair and the rest of the Planning Advisory Committee for considering this zoning bylaw amendment application to facilitate the development of a single detached dwelling today being presented and received for approval. I would like to note that the notice for this application was originally given to each landowner, agencies, and departments in accordance with matters of the Planning Act. This is the second appearance at PAC for this application, as this was initially presented on Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. The subject lands are located on the vacant lands fronting on Shadow Lake Road 6 and are known legally as Front Range, Part Lot 63, Geographic Township of Somerville in the City of Kawartha Lakes. The subject lands encompass a total area of approximately 4.67 hectares with approximately 152.88 meters of frontage on Shadow Lake Road 6. The subject lands are vacant, open space, and forested area. The surrounding uses include rural to the north, rural to the east, rural and waterfront residential to the south, and waterfront residential and water body Shadow Lake to the west. So the subject lands are zoned rural on Schedule A7 of the Kawartha Lakes official plan and currently zoned rural general on Schedule A of the Township of Somerville, zoning bylaw 7845, amended by bylaw 9614. The applicant is proposing a single detached dwelling on the western portion of the subject lands fronting Shadow Lake Road 6. And the applicant proposes a split zone on the subject lands to facilitate the development, having frontage on private road, address site-specific provisions, and protection of archaeological potential and environmental features on the balance of the property. So this will ensure that the proposed single detached dwelling can be built fronting a private road and ensure the protection of the existing wetland and archaeological potential identified on the balance of the property. The amendment establishes a site-specific rural general exception 10 zone to permit the development of a single detached dwelling on a lot having frontage on a private road, which clearly defined reduced lot area, lot frontage, and front and side yard setback dimensions. Moreover, the amendment will establish a site-specific rural general exception 11 holding zone on a portion of the subject lands to address the archaeological potential and existing wetlands on the undeveloped portion of the site. The holding provision ensures that no development or site alteration occurs until stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessment and detailed environmental impact study delineating and evaluating the existing wetlands have been completed. Relevant departments and agencies were circulated on the application, and any comments received have been addressed. Planning staff are of the opinion that the zoning bylaw amendment promotes the development of underutilized land, facilitating small-scale residential development, and safeguarding environmentally sensitive areas and natural heritage features in accordance with policies of the PPS 2024, City of Kawartha Lakes official plan, and Township of Somerville zoning bylaw. Accordingly, staff respectfully recommends that the zoning bylaw amendment respecting application D06-2025-013 substantially in the form attached as Appendix D to Report Plan 2025-057 be approved and adopted by Council. Thank you.
Thank you for the brief overview, Mr. Fishman. Committee, any questions? Okay, seeing none, what is your recommendation to council? Member O'Reilly?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Recommended that the report be received in the Township of Somerville zoning bylaw 78-45 frontage on park lot 63, geographic town of Somerville, Shadow Lake Road 6, Shepstone be received, and a zoning bylaw amendment respecting application D06-2025-013 substantially in the form attached as Appendix D to report plan 2025-057 be approved, adopted by council, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the documents required by the approval of this application.
Seconder for the motion, Councillor Warren. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you good, Councillor Warren?
Yep.
Okay. Calling the question, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 6.2, Plan 2025-058, an application to amend the Town of Lindsay zoning bylaw 2000-75 at 87 Adelaide Street North, Lindsay. 17015-381 Canada Corp. Go ahead.
Just a second. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julio Sarti Caldeira, and I am a planner from Dillon Consulting Limited here on behalf of the City of Kawartha Lakes Development Services Division. Thank you to staff and the chair and the rest of the Planning Advisory Committee for considering the zoning bylaw amendment application to permit a medical office. This is the second appearance at PAC for this application. The application was presented not so long ago. Nevertheless, I would like to go over a brief overview of the site context. The subject lands are approximately 1,255 square meters in area and contain an existing two-story building and a rear parking lot with 16 spaces. The most recent use of the building was a hair salon, and surrounding uses include single detached residential, an apartment building, commercial, and a place of worship. The subject lands are designated urban settlement area in the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan and mixed-use residential in the Lindsay secondary plan, and are zoned mixed residential commercial in the Town of Lindsay zoning bylaw 2000-75. The applicant is seeking to rezone the subject lands to a site-specific mixed residential commercial special zone to permit a medical office on the second floor and a pharmacy on the ground level of the existing building. A pharmacy is a permitted use on the site, but a medical office is not permitted under the current mixed residential commercial zone. The site-specific zone would also address parking requirements, which are not being met for the proposed change of use. No development is contemplated as part of this application. Following the previous PAC meeting, staff requested the applicant to submit further clarification on their request, and a revised planning letter was submitted on November 11, 2025, which included an updated analysis on conformity with the Lindsay secondary plan. The letter also provided detailed operational information to support the request for reduced parking, including expected staff and patient counts and use overlap. It also highlighted the site's location and accessibility by walking and public transit as a reason why the parking reduction should be considered appropriate. As per Appendix D of the Planning Advisory Committee report, The proposed zoning bylaw amendment seeks to amend Schedule A of the Town of Lindsay zoning bylaw 2000-75. The subject site will be rezoned to the mixed residential commercial special 17 zone, shown as MRC-S17 on the screen. In terms of policy conformity, the zoning bylaw amendment is supported in the Provincial Planning Statement 2024, the City of Kawartha Lakes Official Plan, and the Lindsay Secondary Plan. Planning staff are of the opinion that the zoning bylaw amendment is appropriate, and accordingly, staff respectfully recommend that the zoning bylaw amendment respecting application D06-2025-012 and the form attached in Appendix D to report Plan 2025-058 be approved. I would also like to inform you that staff is here to assist in any questions anyone may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for the review. Committee, any questions, recommendations? Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. If there's no, I'll just move it as printed. I'll read it for you. That report plan 2025-058 application to amend the Town of Lindsay zoning bylaw 2075 Plan 1 Block E, part of Lot 15, part of Lot 16, 87 Adelaide Street, North Lindsay, 17015-381 Canada Corp. be received. That is zoning bylaw amendment respectively application D06-2025-012 substantially in the form attached as Appendix D to Plan 2025-058 be approved and adopted by council, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the documents required by the approval of this application. That's a mouthful.
Seconder for the motion, Member Willick. Any discussion? Calling the question, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. That brings us to item 6.3, Plan 2025-062, a draft plan of subdivision at 203, 207, and 213 Kawartha Lakes Road 36, Highway 36, Lindsay, D05-2024-001, Ashmere Developments Limited. Mr. Alexander, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair and members of committee. I believe staff have the presentation to put onto the screen. So I did not receive the latest version of the presentation. There's just a couple of slides. This item was initially provided to Planning Advisory Committee on March 6th, 2024, where committee passed a motion to refer the item back to staff to address public and agency comments for further review of the technical studies. This shows the subject land for the proposed development, and you can go to the next slide, please. And this is the aerial view. The initial application requested an official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of subdivision. This is to facilitate the development of 62 single detached dwellings on the subject lands, including new road and a portion of the extension of Dobson Street. Since the initial application was submitted, the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan has come fully into effect, including the Town of Lindsay secondary plan, and therefore the proposed official plan amendment was no longer necessary, so there's no consideration for the official plan amendment. On November 27th, 2024, Planning Advisory Committee recommended approval of the zoning bylaw amendment, and that was subsequently passed by council on December 10th, 2024. So the zoning bylaw has also been dealt with. That brings us to the current application and consideration today, which is the draft plan of subdivision. The draft plan of subdivision seeks to implement a lot fabric for the development, a new public road, and a stormwater management block. The applicant is proposing to develop 62 two-story single detached dwellings, as mentioned, all with frontage on a future public road. And I think we have the draft plan of subdivision on a slide to show. Great, thank you. So you can see that there is an interior road, sort of an L shape, and the dwellings all front onto there, as well as the Dobson Street extension. The proposed public road will be 20 meters in width, the standard for a local street, and is proposed to connect to the future Dobson Street extension to the south and Brock Street to the west. A 0.4 hectare stormwater management pond is also proposed as part of the lot fabric. This will be an urban design with sidewalks implemented along the new public road, full municipal sewer and water services. The proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms with the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan. The proposed draft plan of subdivision and conditions address concerns that were raised regarding servicing in the area. There is currently no servicing capacity. However, that is the servicing capacity is planned. And so the zoning that was approved included a holding provision to ensure that development would not proceed until the servicing capacity is online. The proposed two-story single detached dwellings are a permitted use in the low density as a low density residential use within the residential designation of the Lindsay secondary plan, and the proposed development meets the low density residential density requirements of the secondary plan with 15.1 units per net hectare. All proposed lots meet the zoning requirements as amended. And so the current zoning is residential 3, special exception 27 with the holding provision that I mentioned. The proposed development is in line with the strategic priorities of an exceptional quality of life. Proposed draft plan of subdivision would facilitate the development of new housing, which would contribute to providing complete communities with access to neighboring amenities for residents in the community. If approved, the proposal would help the city achieve its target of constructing 6,500 housing units by 2031, as stated in the housing pledge adopted by Council on November 21st, 2023. There are no financial considerations, except in the event of an appeal. Notice of the application was originally given to property owners within 120 meters of the subject site and to agencies and city departments who would have an interest in the application. In alignment with the public notice procedure, signage detailing the amendment was also placed on site. No public comments have been received at the time of report writing. The nature of the comments received from development engineering were primarily related to servicing concerns and servicing considerations. However, the inclusion of the holding provision in the zoning addressed those concerns. We also went through a few rounds of revisions and refinements of the draft plan to ensure that all necessary site triangles and reserve areas were properly identified and dimensioned on the draft plan. As mentioned, the application is consistent with the PPS, conforms with the official plan and the Lindsay secondary plan. The policies that apply envision the area as a low-density residential neighborhood, and so this supports that. It makes use of efficient use of underutilized land and represents a form of locally appropriate intensification. And the proposed building topology is compatible with the surrounding area and will contribute to the housing supply in the community. And therefore, we respectfully recommend that the draft plan of subdivision, as shown on Appendix B, together with the conditions substantially in the form attached as Appendix C, be referred to Council for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you. I do have a question. Okay, through you, Chair. You mentioned service concerns and considerations. I was wondering if I could ask Manager Timms, is there any infrastructure upgrades required at this time for this area?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. No, we have reviewed downstream capacity and it is sufficient for this development. This development has been included in the Logie Street sanitary pump station design, so it's being accounted for in those upgrades. So additional upgrades have been identified.
Thank you. Mayor Elmsley.
Given that, does it still need the holding symbol?
Director Barry.
Thanks for the question, Mr. Chair, through you. It would be my recommendation that the holding remains until, at the very least, a subdivision agreement has been drafted, incorporating provisions from, as we evolve through the conditions clearing process of the draft conditions that are before you today, that we can ensure that those are implemented through the subdivision agreement. And at that point, I would expect that both the subdivision agreement as well as the holding would come back before this committee.
Thank you. Follow-up question, if I may, to the planner. Do you know when construction would begin, given that there are no constraints to water or wastewater?
Through you, Chair. The conditions, we have several dozen conditions, technical conditions that need to be addressed by the applicant, as well as some agreements that will need to be made with the adjacent property, which we're about to speak about on the next item. So it is difficult to give a timeline on that. A lot of it is going to depend on the how quickly the applicant is able to address all of the conditions, and of course clearance with various departments of the city. So I don't want to wager an estimate on this, but I think as Director Barry mentioned, the clearance of the conditions and the lifting of the hold will likely be able to be made at the same time. And then construction would be able to proceed from there.
Director Barry.
I'll just tackle onto that, and thank you to the planner. He's quite right. We wouldn't want to estimate at this point, although I believe we're aware through our conversations with the agent for the owner. In fact, he joins us in the gallery today, that there aren't specific timelines or constructions plans that we would know today, but that is a conversation that continues sort of through the evolution of this process. So we could certainly report back on that and have a more definitive timeline from the owner when we bring you a subdivision agreement.
Any further questions? Recommendations? Member O'Reilly.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the report, draft plan of subdivision at 207-213 Kawartha Lakes Road, Highway 36, Town of Lindsay. D05-2024-001 Eshmere Lindsay developments be received in the draft plan of subdivision 16T-245001 as shown in Appendix B, together with the conditions substantially in the form attached as Appendix C to report plan 2025-062 be referred to Council for approval and adoption, and the Mayor and Clerk be authorized to execute the documents required by the approval of this application.
Thank you. Seconder for the motion, Councillor Richardson. Any discussion? Calling the question, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. That brings us to item 6.4, Plan 2025-063, draft plan of subdivision at 139 Kawartha Lakes Road 36, Highway 36, Lindsay, D05-2023-009, Laz Developments, Inc. Mr. Alexander, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. And once again, if the presentation could be put on the screen for me, I appreciate it. This application is for subject lands shown on the screen, and you can see that this is located directly south of the previous application we just discussed. The statutory public meeting for this application was held by Planning Advisory Committee on January 17th, 2024, where a motion was passed to refer it back to staff to address public and agency comments for further review of the technical studies. Again, the initial application requested an official plan amendment. However, the approval of the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan, as well as the Lindsay secondary plan, made that official plan amendment redundant and was no longer necessary. And the applicable land use designation in the Lindsay secondary plan permits the proposed residential use. A zoning bylaw amendment was also submitted. It proposed to rezone the lands from future residential zone to residential multiple 1, special exception 29, with a holding provision as well. And the proposed development would include 87 townhouse dwellings accessed by a future private road network and it would also include an outdoor amenity area. On January 15th, 2025, Planning Advisory Committee considered the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and recommended approval. And Council approved that zoning bylaw amendment on January 28th, 2025. And similar to the previous application, it has the same holding provision to ensure that all site servicing is in place prior to development. The draft plan of subdivision is deceptively simple. It implements a development block, which will then facilitate future land division through the part lot control exemption process and common element condominium applications, which will follow site plan approval. If that could be put up on the slide on the screen as well, just for context. Oh, here's the aerial view. And like I said, it's directly south of the previous application. If we go to the next slide, you can see that the draft plan of subdivision really consists of one large block, which is where all the development will take place, as well as smaller blocks which aren't quite visible for a reserve and for widening of the road, Dobson, as well as a site triangle. And maybe we can go to the next slide as well, just to show what the site plan looks like. I think that's the topography. There you go. So this shows what the eventual townhouse development will look like. And so there is an internal private roadway, which will be part of a common element plan of condominium, providing access to the 87 townhouse dwellings. The site is within the built boundary and it is designated residential in the Lindsay secondary plan. Following the initial statutory public meeting, outstanding technical reviews of submission materials were completed. The key issues, once again, related to available servicing capacity for the proposed development. And so that was resolved through the holding provision in the zoning bylaw amendment. The proposed development is consistent with the provincial planning statement and conforms with the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan. The proposed townhouse dwellings are a permitted medium density residential use within the residential designation of the Lindsay secondary plan. There are certain medium density residential criteria in the secondary plan, which this proposed development does meet. It meets those criteria. It achieves a density of 54 units per hectare, which is within the threshold for medium density as stated in the secondary plan. And therefore, the proposed draft plan of subdivision and the conditions conform with the Lindsay secondary plan. The zoning, as I mentioned, was amended so that it is currently zoned as residential multiple 1, special exception 29 with the holding provision. This zone permits triplex dwellings, fourplex dwellings, and townhouse dwellings, as well as day nurseries, daycare center, home occupation in a dwelling, and accessory uses. The holding provision will ensure adequate servicing allocation, as mentioned. Once again, this is in line with the strategic priorities of the city, including exceptional quality of life, and if approved, would contribute to the housing target of constructing 6,500 housing units by 2031, as stated in the housing pledge. There are no financial considerations, except in the event of an appeal, which is not expected. Notice of the application was originally given to property owners within 120 meters of the subject site and to agencies and city departments with an interest in the application. Public signage was also provided on the site. No public comments have been received at the time of report writing. Nature of comments that we did receive from departments, specifically development engineering, were up regarding the servicing consideration, which was addressed by the holding provision as mentioned, as well as standards for the Dobson Street extension, standards for the internal road, and the provision for the site triangles and reserve, which have all been addressed through, once again, several minor revisions and refinements of the draft plan. Certain comments that were received will be dealt with through the clearance of the subdivision conditions. This includes things such as arranging for the widening and construction of the Dobson Street extension in agreement with the development to the immediate north. In conclusion, the application is consistent with PPS 2024 and conforms with the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan. The applicable policies envision this area, in this specific area, as medium density residential neighborhood with access to other supportive uses, such as parks and public services. The proposal makes efficient use of underutilized land and represents a form of locally appropriate intensification, and the proposed buildings are compatible with the surrounding area and the planned development surrounding the subject lands. In consideration of the comments and issues raised, staff recommend that the draft plan of subdivision, as shown on Appendix B, together with the conditions substantially in the form attached as Appendix C, be referred to Council for approval. Thank you. I'll take questions.
Thank you for the overview, Mr. Alexander. Committee, any questions? Member Willick.
Through the chair to the planner, sorry. It appears that these lots will front on the laneway that runs parallel to 36, where the previous application doesn't. So is the laneway coming out? I know they're separate but conjoined.
Perhaps we can, through you, Chair, perhaps if we can have the
I'll clarify better on this one. This looks like the laneway maintains. Is that going to be a condominium road or part of the public system?
So to the immediate north of the development is Dobson Street, which is going to be a public road, and the townhouses that front onto it will have rear lane access. So the parking for those properties is by the interior laneway network that's there.
So, sorry to clarify, I wasn't clear. There's a lane that runs parallel to Highway 36 on the right side of your drawing.
Oh, on the right side, yes.
So the laneway
so that will be maintained. It's a. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just asking if it's going to be maintained as part of the city network, or is it one of the condominium roads?
The laneway is one of the condominium roads, yes.
Any further questions?
Yeah, sorry, one more. So then who maintains that laneway going south from this property in front of those other? Because the only access point...
through you, Chair. The access, so in the immediate term, the access would be from Dobson and would go through the entire development to that laneway. It is designed so that vehicles, including garbage trucks, emergency vehicles, will be able to enter and turn back around and go out again. It's designed in this way so that there could be a connection further to the south, but at this time there's no road connection to the south. that would be an eventual subsequent development.
So that's what I'm meaning. Like, that's an existing laneway, and there are properties south of there that use that laneway. So if that becomes a condominium road, who is going to maintain the road south of that? Like, does the city do it, or is that?
Through you, Chair. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to see where it says laneway, but the subject lands are the purple outline only. So the laneway that's outside of the purple outline of the property, I don't know if that is maintained by the city or not, but the access to the lots, the access to the townhouses on that side is by the interior laneway. The intent is not for that laneway on the far right to be used to access these properties necessarily. There is access by pedestrian access. There's a sidewalk there extending from the homes, but
okay. So it's, sorry to cut you off.
All of the private maintenance is within that purple outline.
Yeah, I'll cut you off, Matt. Sorry, I'm looking at this backwards. So then there is no access into it. The access is not the laneway stays. And if you can comment, there's adequate space there to maintain that laneway then.
Manager Timms, do you want to give some clarification?
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, to the committee. So laneway is going to stay as existing, and there's frontages on it, but all the access for the vehicles is at the rear to the private laneways. Yeah, so all the vehicles will enter off Dobson and onto the private laneway, and they'll have garages in the back of those units. It'll just be their walkways going out to that existing laneway, which will continue on status quo.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Any recommendations? Mayor Elmsley?
That report, Plan 2025-063, draft plan of subdivision at 139 Kawartha Lakes Road 36, Highway 36, Town of Lindsay, D05 2023-009 be received. That the draft plan of subdivision 16T 23509 as shown on Appendix B, together with the conditions substantially in the form attached as Appendix C to report Plan 2025-063 be referred to Council for approval and adoption, and that the Mayor and Clerk be authorized to execute the documents required by the approval of this application.
Seconder for the motion, Member Nguyen. Any discussion? Calling the question, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That brings us to item 6.5, ENG 2025-033, Municipal Infrastructure Design Guidelines Annual Update. Manager Timms.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. This is our opportunity to report on the proposed updates to the city's infrastructure guidelines for 2026. I was just here, did the 2025 update in June, so there's not many updates since then. Of all the updates, all but one are within the road infrastructure guidelines. We are looking to include a standard detail for sidewalk connections to support our winter maintenance operations. We're going to include a standard detail for curb and gutter installation at catch basins for assist contractors with implementation. We are looking to update CKL 407, which is our typical rural cross section, to include paved shoulders to support active transportation and pedestrian connectivity. We are looking to include a cross-section detail for an 18-meter wide urban road allowance for window streets, which is included in Appendix A of the report. And the only other change we're making is in the stormwater guidelines, which is for clarification that catch basin maintenance holes are to have a minimum sump of 0.3 meters. Those are the only changes we're looking to make for 2026. And as always, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Manager Timms at this time? Everybody good? Sounds good to me. Can we have a motion to receive the report? Member O'Reilly, seconded by Member Nguyen. Any discussion? Calling the question, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. Item 6.6, ENG 2025-034, 2025 Registered Subdivision Status Update. Manager Timms.
Thanks again, and through you, Mr. Chair. This is our opportunity to report on the status of registered subdivisions, which are subdivisions within the implementation stage. Throughout 2025, we were able to accomplish the assumption of the Woodland Hills development of Country Place, Horizon Court, and Tall Cedar Lane, as well as the assumption of both Woods of Jennings Creek Phase 1 South and Phase 1 North. In 2025, we were able to get Tribute Phase 1 into a registered subdivision agreement, and house construction is currently underway. Riverside Heights Phase 3 is currently working under a pre-servicing agreement, and the execution of their development agreement is pending. There's one new addition to the table, which is Gateway Phase 1. It is 105 lots. They currently have a pre-servicing agreement executed for underground servicing, which is anticipated to start in the near future, and they're working towards their subdivision agreement approval. Those were the accomplishments of 2025. I would like to flag to the committee for 2026, we are looking to assume 9 of the 20 subdivisions on that list next year. Once again, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Does anybody have any questions for Manager Timms? Everybody's good. Would somebody like to make a motion to receive the report? Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Ashmore. Any discussion? Calling the question, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. That brings us down to item 7, final motion of the afternoon. Motion for adjournment, Member O'Reilly, seconded by Member Barkwell. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much.